Clemson travels to Pittsburgh this Saturday for a 12 o'clock kickoff on ESPN. I'm going to talk about that game. I'm going to talk about who possibly may be out for Pittsburgh. But I'll dive into that in just a second. Welcome to the channel. I'm Brian. I'm glad that you're here. I'm telling you, we have just a few more weeks of regular season college football. I can't believe it. We waited all that time, and boom, we're here in the second week of November. So it's crazy. Hey, if you like what I'm doing, I hope you will subscribe. It is free. I talk about more college, other college football teams other than Clemson. We'll just go with that. So if you like Clemson football or not, I hope you will subscribe. Pass it along to all your buddies, friends, neighbors, clergymen who enjoys talking college football. I want to say a special hello to someone that I found out. I coach a flag football team along with my oldest son. And I found out one of my players and his dad watches my channel. So I just want to say hello to, I'll just say the dad's name, just for safety purposes. Hello, Tony. I hope you'll drop a hello in the comments section. So let's dive right in. Clemson needs a lot to happen for them to even potentially think about smelling the ACC championship game. And this could have all been avoided just, let me see, risk 30, about 10 days ago, when they played against Louisville at Death Valley at night. But it's done. As my dad said, you're crying about spilled milk. Maybe I am. Maybe that spilled milk has now rotten to where it smells like old eggs, boiled eggs. Now Clemson has to hope that someone loses a game here or there. But they have their last ACC game this week at Pittsburgh. Now, this Pittsburgh team started off pretty solid, right? They were undefeated. And then over the past 2 weeks, they've lost 2 games in a row. I want to pause there. Yesterday, I was on College Football Addiction with my buddy TJ, and I misspoke twice, and it's driving me crazy. That's the only thing about being recorded and having it on, like, YouTube and where people can recall what you say, is I misspoke, and I referred to that Clemson played at 12 this past Saturday. They did not. They played at Virginia Tech at 3:30, right? And then I said that Pittsburgh is coming off of a 2-game winning streak. What I was meaning to say was a 2-game losing streak. That's what happens when you're talking fast and you're trying to remember everything and your coffee hasn't kicked in. But just wanted to correct that in front of everybody who may watch me and watch that video. Just want to acknowledge that. But Pittsburgh, they're coming off of a 2-game losing streak. Let's talk about who Pittsburgh played at first. And by the way, no offense, Pitt Panthers, I never bought into you. Very first game was against Kent State. You won. Then you won by 1 point over Cincinnati. Then you played West Virginia, won by 4 points. Then you played Youngstown State. Ooh, I bet that took a lot out of you. You won 73-17. You played a North Carolina team that James Madison manhandled. You beat them by 10 points. You played California, a team that is Florida State's only win. You beat them barely by 2 points. And then you played Syracuse, and Kyle McCord threw the ball 5 times to your team. You returned 3 of those for touchdowns. 41-13. But I never got caught up in the Pittsburgh hype. Then you played at SMU, and guess what happened? You lost by 23 points. This past week, you lost by 5 points. To SMU or Miami or, nope, Virginia. Now Clemson is coming in here. Coming to Pitt to play. Now here is something that's interesting. Now, their quarterback, Eli Holstein, a transfer from Alabama, went out of the Virginia game. He got injured. I don't know when he got injured, but I know he got injured in that game. And as of right now, he is questionable for the game against Clemson. Not only is he questionable. But the leading receiver for Pittsburgh is questionable for this game. This guy has 35 receptions, 560 yards, 3 touchdowns. His last name, Mumpfield, won't even take a shot at his first name out of respect of he and his kin. I did not buy into Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh really hadn't played anybody. Now, pause there. Out of a spirit of fairness to you Pittsburgh fans, you could look at me and say, Brian, didn't Clemson go on this massive win streak where everybody was like praising them and worshiping them and saying that they're back against a bunch of terrible teams only to lose to the only good team since Georgia that they had played? And I would look at you and say, yep, you got that right. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You're right. And I'm right about Pittsburgh. Oh, by the way, for the Pittsburgh fans who you've never watched me, but you're watching this Pittsburgh preview. I tell the truth about my own team. So, yeah, just go check the receipts. You'll find it. They hate me. Back to this. Pittsburgh throws the ball a little over 50% of the time. They like to spread the field. Try to get it out in space. We saw Clemson's defense make a change this past week due to depth issues because of injury and graduation. Wes went out and changed the defense right after the loss. It's called an adjustment. There's a few other coaches that I wish they would adjust some things when they play teams that push back on us, but that's another video. But trust me, I believe that video is coming soon. Wes adjusted things, and he's putting Sammy Brown back out, or putting him on the field more. Let me tell you this: Sammy Brown needs to go out there and just let him eat. Just feed him. Let him go out there and do his thing. Don't penalize Sammy Brown for being a freshman. And the only time you start to pull back on Sammy Brown's playing time is when Sammy starts to play like a freshman. Or you can put him out on the field next year when he's a sophomore and let him play like a freshman when he's a sophomore. And no, I don't care what he does in practice unless he is just really stinking it up. Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, they put freshmen out all the time, and they get their own highlight reels. Let Sammy Brown play more. If he's a really good player, come on. But you have Pittsburgh, their quarterback may not play against us, and if he does, he's banged up. So we know that. We work that to our favor. You put a lot of pressure on the guy. Put a lot of pressure on the guy. You know that if he's hurt, most likely they're going to try to get the ball out of his hands really, really fast. Then makes sense. If I'm coaching against him, I'm sending the house. I don't want cheap shots. I don't want none of that trash here. No, all you have to do is pressure. He's already feeling not so good. Make him feel more uneasy. Show pressure, bring some of it, drop some of it back. They'll throw the ball right to you. If you're Ashton Hampton, just throw it near him. He'll scoop the ball out of your earlobe. You know, it was about this time last year that Avion Terrell, Shelton Lewis, and even Khalil Barnes, the true freshmen, really started to show up for Clemson. And right now, seeing Ashton Hampton show up like he did against Virginia Tech, they picked on him twice in a row. You saw that, didn't you? So they threw to the guy before that interception, and then went right back to him. Ashton Hampton said, "No, sir. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Nope, I picked it off. So let's go back over this. The quarterback for Pitt, he's questionable. You know that if he plays, he's still all busted up. We saw this past weekend with Virginia Tech. You saw the injured running back. You saw the banged up quarterback that tried to play, and Clemson just got in his head. And by the time the backup came in, Schlee came in. If I said the backup the first time around, please forgive me. What I meant to say was when the starting quarterback was banged up, he had to go out. You could tell he was banged up. By the time the backup came in, Clemson was already doing their thing offensively, which they should have been doing the entire football game. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. We saw how that worked in our favor. So what are the keys for this football game? This is your last conference game, Clemson. It's against a team that 3 weeks ago was undefeated, and people were going, hey, they're one of the few undefeated teams left, and very few people are talking about them. I wonder why that is. Oh, here's their schedule again. Play Kent State, Cincinnati, West Virginia, Youngstown State, North Carolina, California, and Syracuse. That's why nobody bought into them. Because they were not playing good football teams and beating them. They were beating bad football teams, and some of them they were struggling with. Nobody was buying into that. And then SMU came along, just like Georgia Tech this weekend came along, took Miami down like they should have been taken down. I said that Miami has a really good quarterback, really good wide receiver, good running back, some good players here and there, but overall, as a complete football team, mainly including the sidelines, talking about the coaches, Miami, nothing special to write home about. Told you that over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And then no one would listen to me until Georgia freaking Tech had to come along and beat them. Fix that. At least take them from the number 4 position in the country. I never bought that. And Canes, I don't have anything against you, by the way. Again, if I tell the truth about my team, tell the truth about you. So Pittsburgh gets taken out of the equation. They're done. Lose 2 games in a row. The first one, SMU, you're like, eh. You get to Virginia, y'all, Virginia ain't good. I don't care if your quarterback did get injured, go out of the game. Sorry. Don't know what to say to you there. Virginia's just not a good football team. They're better than what they have, but my Lord, when you're in the toilet bowl, getting up off the seat, I mean, that makes you look better, but I mean, come on. Here's the key to the game. Clemson's coaching staff, and I know that I'm putting blame on everyone, but this is not on everyone. But this is on the main decision makers of Clemson football. Their coaching staff is not elite. Their coaching staff, as a whole. Now, if you go, and I can see the rebuttals and the comments coming in the future, so I just want to address it as though I'm reading it. What about Matt Luke? He ain't elite. I said as a whole. Are you terrible at fractions? Did you miss that year in school where they taught you fractions? I didn't say as a whole. And if I did, I totally misspoke. But the main decision makers and other coaches, the other coaches, outside of Matt Luke and a few others, they're not elite. I'm sorry. And they show us this every time they go out and play a team that can actually scheme. I'm not talking about even world-class scheming. I'm just talking about they can scheme and they have solid players to where they can push back on Clemson's. Clemson is the number 5 rated overall talented team in the country, according to 24/7 Composite. Clemson's doing less with more. So this weekend, I'm not worried about if Pittsburgh starts their quarterback and he is completely 100%. I'm not worried about if their wide receiver, who's incredible for them, if he comes out and plays this weekend, he's 100%. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about what's going on the sidelines for the Clemson coaching staff as a whole. I'm not talking about Matt Luke. I'm not talking about Mike Reed. Maybe missed a name or two here, but overall is what I'm trying to say. Excluding a few, Clemson's coaching staff proves time and time again they are not elite. Sorry. And by the way, they could be elite. You could have a Matt Luke. I'm not talking about a former head coach. Oh, you want former head coaches everywhere? Somebody asked me that. No, that's not what I'm saying. And if you ask that in a nice way, I don't mean that condescending. It just kind of came out that way. But I have so many dumb comments that come into me with such a condescending, sarcastic nature who still doesn't want to accept where Clemson's not, that sometimes it just flows out of me. So if you meant that chill, please understand I didn't mean that like a jerk, okay? No, I'm talking about Clemson could have a Matt Luke. He is an expert for the offensive line. When it comes to offensive line, teaching, developing, all of that, Matt Luke is elite. You could have an elite coach at literally every position at Clemson, and we don't. Oh, it's hard to do. Remember Matt Luke talking about when Dabo Swinney called him, wanting to know if he wanted to join Clemson? Guy came out of early retirement to come coach at Clemson. So get that trash out of here. You're regurgitating something you saw on a forum, and that person is probably taken up for somebody they don't know and they think they're gaining a buddy. It's wrong. My main concern for this Clemson versus Pittsburgh team is not Pittsburgh. It's not the Clemson football players. It's the Clemson sideline. I agree it is hard to win if you're coaching in the SEC. Certain teams in the Big Ten. But if Clemson went to, I don't know, Conference USA today, should they lose a game with all the talent that they have? The correct answer is no. You put a team in front of Clemson that may push back on them, and their coaching staff is the one that fails them. If Cade is uncomfortable in the pocket and the pocket is breaking down, you call a play where you move them in the pocket. I know, it's almost like I sat around and thought about that. I'm going to get to the comments section, then I'm going to give my prediction. May there, Bobby Durkins, PBR time. Was chatting with my friend today and want your honest opinion, a bit of off subject, but where would you rank Clemson, Miami, and SMU if they were currently in the SEC? Let me come back to that. I want to give the prediction because I'll forget it, but I want to answer this, Trey. Stephen P., I saw Cade at Chick-fil-A. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. If it's the one in Clemson, man, that's a crazy place, man. It's all bunched up there on 123. They've redesigned it and everything, but it's still bunched up. It's nuts. Cosmic Tactics, can we please start being exotic on defense? In my opinion, West calls the defense too vanilla. I get it. Oh, my old buddy in here. Good afternoon, Professor. I'm 8 minutes late to class. Do I need to get you a note from my dog? Yes. Yes, I want that dog to come in and speak to me. Remember on Andy Griffith where Opie's buddy tied that walkie-talkie to Goober's dog? He thought he was talking to him. I'm sorry, that's what I thought of. Yes, everyone, I love subscribing, hitting the thumbs up, and joining the channel if it's cheap. It's cheap and it advances the cause of the great Clemson professor. Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much. Big John, you see that symbol beside his name? It means that he supports the channel. He supports the channel on a monthly basis, $3 or $5 per month. So if you like what I'm doing, hey, look, I'm an independent. I don't have sponsors, and good for the people who have sponsors. I'm not saying I'll never have sponsors, all right? All I'm saying is I'm an independent. I'm out here on my own, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I'm not I'm not turning down opportunities if it was good ones, but not West Goodwin. Sorry, squirrel mommy. My point here is I just want to be in a place where I can actually tell the truth without worrying. All right, about anything. Is Clemson truly a top 5 team? I find it hard to believe. No, they're not. I'm going to my first Clemson game and football game in general this weekend in Pitt for my birthday. I need to see us get a dub. Well, happy early birthday to you. Happy early birthday to you. I'm pulling for that. Still all in on my Tigers Go Tigers. Dane Wilson, good to see you. All right, here's my prediction. Then I'm going to answer this question up here from Trey Stevens. Music. I'm going to go from here. Clemson, let me look at the spread. I believe Clemson's a 9.5-point favorite. They're a 10-point favorite going into this game. I'm not worried about Clemson's talent on the field. I'm worried about the coaching staff. Folks, calling Clemson games and trying to predict them is really, really difficult because you don't know which coaching staff is going to show up. Defensively, you can put your finger on it a little more. Wes actually made the adjustment, so I'm going to lay off of him. But offensively, we don't know. We don't know. When Clemson plays anybody in a time where you really need the win or it's a really good football team, Clemson starts operating more off of what we can't do versus what we can. Does that make sense? If not, we can talk about that later. I'm going to pick Clemson to win this ball game. I'm going to pick Clemson to win this game. I think they cover the 10-point spread. I would not be shocked if they don't, but get out of Pittsburgh in their last conference game of the year with a dub. It's sad that Clemson, especially with the talent on their team, that Clemson just can't go in, just take care of business, and beat the trash out of them. I want to answer this question because it was asked directly to me. This is right off the cuff. I may think about this later and regret it, Trey. Here we go. I was chatting with my friend today. I want your honest opinion, a bit off subject, but where would you rank Clemson, Miami, and SMU if they were currently in the SEC? Great question. So I'm trying to remember where all the teams are at in the SEC. I think mid-tier. I think Clemson. Here's the problem with Miami. Miami does not have a great defense. They have some good defensive players here and there. Reuben Bain, everybody knows about him. The problem with Miami is defense and their coaching staff, right? I'm not saying all the coaches. I'm just saying it's just we've seen coaching malfeasance, and I still think it's there. I still think it's there. I'm not overly impressed with them. So I think that right now Clemson, SMU, Clemson and Miami would probably be ranked mid-tier. So let's just say, I can't remember, I want to say there's 14 teams in the SEC. I would probably say Clemson right now with their coaching staff, with their lack of intensity, with winning not being the main goal anymore because it's quite obvious it's not the main goal. I would probably say Clemson would probably be somewhere at about Clemson and Miami could fight over sixth place in the SEC, somewhere in there. I hate to say that. That's reality. Miami, SMU, a lot of people are going gaga for SMU because they're undefeated. Who has SMU really played? I mean, really. Really. So I know everybody wants to point at BYU, and I don't want to take away from BYU. They're winning all their games. But I'm not impressed with SMU, so I would say that they would be right below Clemson and or Miami. Yeah. So middle of the pack at best. Because if Clemson went and played here's my thought, and I'm going to shut down this video and keep my mouth shut because I'm making the preview a little longer, but I want to answer your question. If Clemson had to play Alabama tomorrow, what do you think would happen? Bama would win. Clemson had to play A&M tomorrow. Who would win? A&M. Clemson had to play LSU. Who would win tomorrow? I'm quite confident LSU would win. If Clemson had to play Tennessee tomorrow, Tennessee would win. Clemson, well, they already played Georgia. We know how that played out. Clemson had to play Ole Miss tomorrow. Ole Miss would win. Clemson had to play Texas tomorrow. Who would win? Texas. Clemson had to play Vandy with a healthy Diego Pavia. So Clemson has to play South Carolina in a few weeks, and I feel terrible about that ball game. I mean, we've barely gotten any better as a whole. As a whole. So I would say mid-tier. Clemson, according to their schedule, there's some SEC schedules that are not as tough as others, like Oklahoma and Florida. They have some of the worst SEC schedules of all teams. And it's rough. While there's other SEC schedules that are more doable because you have more Mississippi States, and even though Vandy's good, you have Vandy, and you have, Florida and Kentucky, South Carolina. Then you may get a Georgia in there, maybe an LSU. And then there's other ones. It's just like every other week. It's like number 1, number 7, number 5, yeah. I mean, it's crazy. So hopefully that answers your question. That's just being as honest as I possibly can be. But anyway, hey, folks, if you like what I'm doing, I hope you will subscribe. Remember, it's free. I hope you'll drop a comment in here. Even if you hate my opinion, let me know about it. I do want to hear it. Hit the thumbs up, hit the thumbs down. I'll catch you next time. Clemson wins this ball game. I think they cover. I'm not going to even give a points prediction. I think that's about useless at this point. I think Clemson covers, but I would not be shocked if they won by 7 points or less. Take care of yourself, and as always, go Tigers.